From the silent, frozen vacuum of deep space, our planet does not look like a world of continents or borders. It looks like a single, radiant drop of liquid sapphire suspended in the dark. This is the ocean, a restless, breathing blanket of blue covering 2/3 of our world. To the human eye, it seems like an empty desert of salt and water, beautiful but chaotic. But that is our grandest misunderstanding. The ocean is a vast, interconnected network where nothing happens by accident. Every wave that crashes and every creature that swims is bound to a singular, unseen rhythm. It is a silent orchestra playing a melody as old as creation itself. We call it the shared pulse. Human beings are obsessed with tracking existence. We divide our lives into rigid hours, minutes, and seconds, believing we control time. But out here, our mechanical clocks mean absolutely nothing. The wild world moves to an ancient cosmic drumbeat dictated by the ghostly tug of the moon's gravity, deep thermal currents, and the Earth's silent magnetic fields. Right now, the seasons are turning. Across the globe, millions of travelers, separated by thousands of miles, are waking up to the same internal alarm. They are giants, intellects, and tiny shore dwellers. They do not know each other, yet they are all about to gamble everything they are, pushing their bodies to the absolute brink of death. And they will do it all so that a generation they will never live to see can have a chance to breathe. They do not run on time. They run on destiny. Our journey begins in the far north, where the world is constructed of jagged slate and crushing ice. This is the Gulf of Alaska. Here, the ocean is dark, violent, and relentless, whipped into a frenzy by freezing polar winds that scream across the surface. Beneath the white foam of the waves, the water is a deep, murky green, holding a cold that can stop a human heart in a matter of minutes. Yet, beneath this hostile surface, the water is alive. This is one of the richest oceanic banquet halls on planet Earth. The cold currents stir up an explosion of life from the seafloor, creating massive clouds of tiny shrimp-like krill and billions of swirling silver herring. For a creature with an insatiable appetite, there is no better place on Earth to be. Gliding through this emerald gloom is a shadow of impossible proportions. She is a female humpback whale, a leviathan of the deep spanning 15 meters in length and weighing over 35 tons. Her skin is a mottled tapestry of midnight black and ghost white, scarred by the battles of a long life and encrusted with clusters of rugged barnacles. To see her move is to watch a mountain float. For the past 5 months, this place has been her sanctuary. Her entire existence has been reduced to a single, simple task: eating. Day and night, she has plowed through the freezing waters, opening her cavernous jaws to swallow entire schools of fish, filtering the ocean through the heavy curtains of baleen in her mouth. She has feasted until her body is thick, healthy, and layered with a massive coat of rich blubber. But her time here is running out. The calendar of the wild is shifting. The sun is sinking lower on the horizon each day, and the brief Arctic summer is collapsing into a brutal, dark winter. The temperature of the water is plummeting, and soon giant sheets of ice will begin to lock down the bays and inlets. But the cold is not what makes her restless. The true trigger is buried deep inside her own flesh. Deep within her womb, a miracle is unfolding. She is pregnant. For nearly a year, an invisible spark of life has been growing in the dark, shielded by her massive ribs and nourished by her blood. Now, that new life is almost ready to face the world. And this creates the ultimate maternal dilemma. The very waters that keep her alive are a death sentence for her unborn child. If she stays here in Alaska, she can continue to feast on the endless clouds of fish. She can maintain her strength and stay comfortable. But a newborn humpback whale is born without the thick layer of insulating blubber that shields the adults. If her calf is born into these freezing, storm-tossed northern seas, the cold will claim its life before it can even learn to swim. Worse still, these murky waters are the hunting grounds of transient killer whales, the apex predators of the north. A newborn calf, slow and fragile, would be defenseless against a pack of highly organized, ruthless hunters. Alaska is a place of abundance, but it is entirely devoid of mercy. To save her child, she must make a choice that defies the most basic rule of survival. She must choose to leave the food behind. She must turn her back on the feast and enter a desert. Ahead of her lies a grueling 4,800-kilometer migration across the open, featureless desert of the North Pacific Ocean. Her destination is the warm, shallow, sun-drenched cradle of Hawaii. Those tropical waters are clear, peaceful, and entirely free of large predators. They are the perfect nursery. But paradise comes with a devastating price. In those warm, beautiful tropical waters, there is absolutely nothing for a humpback whale to eat. The clear blue water is a biological desert for a leviathan. By leaving Alaska, she is signing a decree of voluntary starvation. Think about the scale of this sacrifice. For the next several months, as she journeys across the open sea, gives birth, and nurses her newborn baby, not a single piece of food will pass her throat. She will be forced to power her own massive body, swim thousands of miles through rough currents, and produce gallons of rich, fatty milk every single day using nothing but her own body fat. She will slowly melt her own flesh from the inside out to keep her child alive. It is a test of pure endurance, a slow-motion burning of her own life force. By the time she returns to these northern waters next year, she will have lost more than a quarter of her total body weight. She will be a walking skeleton, her skin sagging, her energy completely spent. She is gambling her own survival on the hope of tomorrow. She stands at the crossroads of two worlds. The wind howls above the surface, and the icy water presses against her flanks. The internal compass in her brain, attuned to the magnetic lines of the Earth, points directly south. The shared pulse is beating loud and clear in her veins, demanding that she move. There is no more time for hesitation. She takes one final, monumental breath at the surface, filling her giant lungs with the crisp Arctic air, and arches her back. She turns her massive body south, leaving abundance behind for the sake of an unborn stranger. The deep, thunderous sound of her tail fluke striking the water echoes underwater. She dives down into the great ink-black abyss, leaving the jagged shores of Alaska behind. She is the first major player to move across the global chessboard, driven by a love that exists before birth. But as her giant shadow fades into the deep blue highway of the Pacific, the very same seasonal shift is striking another shore, thousands of miles away, proving that the rhythm of life connects the absolute largest of creatures to the most unexpectedly small. While the giant mother whale charts her silent course through the deep, empty deserts of the Pacific, the shared pulse is vibrating through a completely different world. It crosses the equator, moving thousands of miles into the heart of the Indian Ocean, where a tiny speck of volcanic rock rises from the waves. This is Christmas Island. For nearly a year, this island has been locked in a brutal, suffocating dry season. The tropical sun has baked the earth, turning the soil into cracked clay and drying the leaves to crisp parchment. Deep within the island's dense rainforest interior, the world seems completely still, almost dead. But life here has not vanished. It is simply hiding from the heat, waiting under the surface. Buried deep within the cool subterranean mud of a shadowy burrow sits a single, remarkable creature. He is a Christmas Island red crab, a land-dwelling crustacean no bigger than a human hand. His shell is a brilliant, polished crimson, and his eyes are dark beads alert to the slightest change in his environment. For months, he has survived by sealing himself inside the earth, conserving every drop of moisture in his body, waiting for a signal he cannot see. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. The heavy, oppressive heat of the dry season is broken by a sudden drop in barometric pressure. High above the jungle canopy, giant, dark clouds bruise the sky, rolling in from the open ocean. And then it happens. A single, heavy raindrop pierces the leaves and strikes the forest floor. The tropical monsoon has arrived. Within minutes, the sky breaks open, unleashing a torrential downpour that drenches the parched island. The smell of rich, wet earth floods the air. For the little red crab inside his burrow, this is the ultimate awakening. The first drops of water sliding down the walls of his home act as a green light. His internal clock strikes 12. He begins to crawl upward, his claws digging into the wet mud, until he breaks through into the rain. And as he steps out onto the wet forest floor, he witnesses a transformation that defies imagination. He is not alone. 10, 100, 10,000, then millions. From every crevice in the rocks, from underneath every fallen log, and out of millions of hidden burrows, the island is waking up. An army of 70 million marchers, and not a single leader. They do not need a general to command them, because they are all listening to the exact same drumbeat of the earth. Driven by an ancient, instinctual discipline, they turn their bodies in perfect synchronization toward a single destination: the coast. They must reach the ocean. What follows is one of the most spectacular migrations on planet Earth. The lush green island is slowly swallowed by a living, crawling river of crimson. Millions of red crabs pour out of the trees, covering the jungle floor, spilling over root systems, and moving with absolute, unstoppable momentum. They move sideways, their tiny legs working tirelessly as they conquer every obstacle in their path. To see a single crab is to see something small and vulnerable. But to see 70 million of them moving as one is to witness a force of nature as powerful as any ocean current. They are driven by a singular biological mission. Though they have evolved to live on land, their ancestry belongs to the sea. Their bodies can survive in the forest, but their unborn children cannot. To ensure the survival of their species, every adult crab on the island must make the perilous 8-kilometer journey from the high forests down to the edge of the saltwater shore to breed and release their eggs. For a human, 8 kilometers is a brief walk. For a creature whose legs are only 10 centimeters long, it is the equivalent of a grueling marathon, an epic cross-country trek filled with exhaustion and danger. They face steep, treacherous, rocky cliffs, predatory birds, and the punishing tropical heat if the rain happens to stop. Yet, the red tide shows no hesitation. They climb over jagged stones, march through deep ravines, and push through the dense undergrowth, completely focused on the call of the ocean. They are an army bound by blood and the shared pulse of the seasons. The little red crab pushes forward, his crimson claws cutting through the falling rain, stepping in perfect rhythm with the millions of brothers and sisters flanking his sides. They have officially joined the global dance, moving alongside the giant humpback whale on a shared path toward the future. But as this slow, massive army of armor and claws begins its long march across the land, out in the open tropical coastal waters just beyond the reefs, survival requires a completely different kind of superpower. Not the brute force of millions, but the sharp edge of absolute intelligence and family unity. The heavy, humid downpour of the island jungle fades away, replaced by an explosion of brilliant, liquid light. We are now in the sun-drenched, crystal-clear tropical coastal waters just beyond the coral reef. Here, the ocean is a vibrant, dazzling turquoise, illuminated by columns of pure sunlight that dance across the sandy seafloor. Slicing through this underwater paradise at breathtaking speed come a dozen silver arrows. They move with an elegance that makes the water look weightless, twisting, turning, and rolling in perfect unison. These are bottlenose dolphins, the undisputed masters of social intellect in the marine world. Their sleek, streamlined bodies are built for pure performance, effortlessly cutting through the pressure of the deep. Unlike the great humpback whale, these dolphins do not spend their lives migrating across vast, lonely hemispheres. They are residents of the reef, true locals of these coastal, shallow waters. Yet, their lives are no less bound to the shared pulse of the planet. The turning of the seasons shifts the great currents, and right now, those currents are driving massive, swirling shoals of fish directly toward the shallows. The banquet has arrived at their doorstep, but capturing it requires a level of strategy that few other creatures possess. This is not a random collection of individuals. It is a pod, a highly sophisticated, tight-knit family unit bound by blood, loyalty, and deep affection. As they glide through the sunlit water, the ocean is filled with a constant, frenetic symphony of sound. They are talking to one another. Each dolphin possesses its own unique signature whistle, a specific acoustic melody that acts exactly like a human name, allowed to be recognized by the rest of the family even in the darkest waters. At the center of this silver convoy is a young scout, a juvenile dolphin learning the complex laws of the family business. He watches his elders closely, mimicking their movements and listening to the rapid-fire bursts of clicks bouncing off the seafloor. This is echolocation, a biological sonar so advanced it allows the dolphins to see through the water using sound, mapping out the exact size, speed, and direction of hidden prey long before it comes into view. The internal clock of the pod is ticking. The acoustic map tells them that a massive shoal of mullet has just entered the shallow tidal flats nearby. But a disorganized rush would only scatter the fish, allowing them to escape into the safety of the deeper water. To succeed, the family must work as a single, coordinated mind. The older, experienced matriarch of the pod emits a sharp, commanding whistle, assigning positions to each member of the team. 2 dolphins split off to act as flankers, swimming wide to block the fish's escape routes. Others drop low, skimming the sandy bottom to drive the shoal upward toward the surface. The young scout is placed in the secondary line, waiting for his cue. It is a masterclass in tactical warfare, a display of teamwork that rivals any human military operation. They communicate through the static, adjusting their trap in real time as the fish begin to panic. In this world, survival is not a solo act. It is a conversation. The trap is set. With absolute precision, the dolphins accelerate, creating a wall of churning bubbles and pressure that drives the terrified fish into a dense, helpless ball against the shoreline. It is a victory of intelligence over instinct, a celebration of life and family unity that reinforces the deep social bonds of the pod. For these creatures, the shared pulse of the ocean is a source of joy, a playground where mind and body work in flawless harmony to protect and feed the collective whole. The young scout dives back into the formation, his whistles joining the chorus of his family as they celebrate another successful harvest in their sunlit kingdom. They have mastered their environment, turning the seasonal shifts of the ocean into a grand game of survival. But where the warm, tropical currents finally die out and the jagged, frozen coastlines of the far north begin, the shared pulse of the ocean demands a much heavier price. In that world of frost and shadow, life is not a joyful social game, it is a lonely, brutal battlefield where a single mistake means the end. The sun-drenched turquoise paradise of the dolphin kingdom vanishes instantly, violently frozen over by the brutal reality of the subarctic Pacific. Here, the world is a monochromatic wilderness of jagged slate, blinding white frost, and black water. Freezing waves, heavy as lead, slam relentlessly against frozen rocks, throwing up a spray of ice that hardens the moment it hits the air. This is the frontier between 2 unforgiving realms, and resting on a solitary, melting ice floe is our final player. He is a young, spotted seal pup, born only a few weeks ago into a world of absolute extremes. His body is a soft teardrop shape, covered in a coat of silver-gray fur punctuated by dark, ink-like spots. On land, or on this unstable shelf of ice, he is a creature defined by limitation. He is heavy, clumsy, and agonizingly slow, dragging his weight with awkward, painful lunges. To stay on this ice is to be a sitting duck for any hungry predator patrolling the frozen shoreline. But the shared pulse of the changing seasons is moving beneath him, and his icy sanctuary is rapidly running out of time. The rising tide and the creeping warmth of a late spring are fracturing his frozen world, sending deep, echoing cracks through the ice floe. His cradle is disintegrating, shrinking beneath his flippers with every wave that passes. He stands at the absolute edge of two worlds, caught in a terrifying transition. Ahead of him lies the dark, crashing abyss of the sea. To a creature that has only ever known the solid, predictable surface of the ice, the churning black water looks like an engine of pure destruction. He is terrified of the dark depths and the violent crash of the surf, yet a primal, genetic memory whispering deep inside his veins tells him the truth that cold, terrifying liquid darkness is his only true home. He tilts his whiskered head forward, his large, dark eyes reflecting the vast, stormy horizon of the northern sea. He takes a deep, shivering breath, smelling the salt and the deep currents. His internal clock is striking the hour of his independence. He must find the courage to let go of the solid world, to tip his body forward, and to plunge blindly into the great, deep unknown. He leans closer to the edge, his heart hammering against his ribs as the water rises to greet him. The moment of choices is over. Across the entire span of the blue planet, the grand chess pieces of the wild are all in motion, and the true test of survival has officially begun. In the far north, the young seal pup loses his grip on the ice and slips down into the roaring white foam of the subarctic surf. Thousands of miles away, the crimson army of the red crabs hits its first terrifying modern barrier, a massive, black human highway, humming with lethal metal monsters. In the tropical shallows, a cold, silent shadow moves beneath the joyful dolphin pod, scattering the fish and turning a peaceful family feast into an immediate battle for defense. And out in the lonely, featureless desert of the open Pacific, the pregnant humpback whale mother swims directly into deep, treacherous waters where the ghosts of the deep wait in ambush. The peaceful hours are over. The gauntlet has been thrown. The freezing spray of the subarctic surf dissolves instantly, replaced by the choking heat of a tropical borderland. We are back on Christmas Island, but the lush, cool shelter of the rainforest interior has vanished. The ancient trees give way to a brutal, man-made scar that cuts directly through the heart of the wilderness, a two-lane coastal highway made of black, sun-baked asphalt. The air above the road vibrates with heat waves, smelling of exhaust fumes, melted tar, and dust. For 11 months of the year, this asphalt strip belongs exclusively to the modern world of humans. But today, it is transformed into a lethal gauntlet. The Crimson Army has marched down from the high terraces, and now 70 million travelers have arrived at the edge of the forest. To reach the ocean, to fulfill their biological destiny, they must cross this open, exposed desert of black stone. Our little red crab stands at the tree line. His instinct pushes him forward, but his senses are overwhelmed by a terrifying mechanical roar. Suddenly, the jungle edges tremble. A massive commercial truck thunders down the highway, moving at a speed that is incomprehensible to a creature that measures its life in inches. The air pressure alone throws the front line of crabs backward into the dirt. But the momentum of the march cannot be halted. The sheer volume of numbers behind them creates an unstoppable pressure. Thousands of crabs spill over the concrete curbs and step onto the searing hot asphalt. Instantly, the road becomes a slaughterhouse. Giant rubber tires, spinning like black blades, crush hundreds of marchers in a single pass. The sound of cracking shells echoes through the hot air. To see a single red crab on this highway is to witness the absolute definition of fragility. he is a delicate creature of water and soft flesh, protected only by a thin layer of armor, facing a world of steel, concrete, and speed. A single encounter with a tire means instant annihilation. Yet, the grand narrative of this migration is defined by a brutal, beautiful paradox: individual fragility versus collective invincibility. The red tide shows no fear, because fear is an emotion they do not possess. They do not comprehend death, nor do they mourn. When a crab is crushed, the marchers directly behind do not run away. Driven by the cold, unyielding mechanics of instinct, they simply climb over the broken shells of their fallen comrades and continue pushing toward the other side. The dead become stepping stones. The living become an unstoppable wave. But the highway is not the only horror they must face in this transition zone. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, the shifting shadows at the forest edges reveal a nightmare born of prehistoric times. Emerging from the deep roots of the banyan trees come the monsters of the island, the robber crabs. Also known as coconut crabs, these are the largest land-dwelling crustaceans on planet Earth. A single robber crab can span up to a meter from leg to leg and weigh more than 4 kilograms. Their heavy armor is a deep, bruised blue and dark purple, and they are armed with massive asymmetrical claws capable of exerting a crushing force that equals the bite of a lion. They are the apex predators of the forest floor, and the annual migration of the red crabs is their greatest feast. The robber crabs take up positions along the edges of the road, acting as an army of giants waiting to ambush a column of infants. Their eyesight is poor, but they possess an incredibly sharp sense of smell, tracking the chemicals released by the stressed red crabs. A giant robber crab reaches down, its massive claw snapping through the air with terrifying speed, lifting a red marcher off the ground and crushing its shell effortlessly to consume it alive. Our little red crab pushes forward, moving sideways across the scorching asphalt. A robber crab looms directly over his path, a wall of blue armor and snapping claws. To survive, the little marcher must rely entirely on agility and luck. He darts under the giant's shadow, slipping past a crushing claw by a fraction of an inch, his tiny legs working in a desperate, frantic rhythm. The danger is absolute. If he stays on the road too long, the sun will dehydrate his body, drying out his gills and suffocating him before a tire can finish the job. If he retreats, the giants are waiting in the shadows. There is no room for hesitation, no time to look back, and no option to surrender. The shared pulse in his blood screams that the ocean is near and nothing else matters. To stop is to die. The only way out is through. He survives the blast. He pulls his legs underneath his body, shakes the dust from his eyes, and lunges over the concrete curb on the opposite side of the highway. He has conquered the iron gates of civilization. The sound of the traffic begins to fade behind him, replaced by the deep, rhythmic rumbling of the true ocean surf crashing against the lower cliffs. He is bleeding, he is exhausted, but he is still moving. The Red Army has paid a devastating price on the asphalt, leaving thousands of fallen soldiers behind. But the collective entity has survived the gauntlet. They pour down the final rocky slopes toward the shore, a relentless river of life heading toward its source. But as these tiny land dwellers celebrate their escape from the mechanical world of man, far out in the deep, silent blue of the open Pacific Ocean, our giant traveler is discovering that the deep sea holds its own invisible walls of death and shadows that hunt in absolute silence. The roaring traffic and the dry, tropical heat vanish, swallowed instantly by a vast, cold world of liquid twilight. We are thousands of miles out in the open Pacific Ocean, halfway between the icy fjords of Alaska and the sunlit reefs of Hawaii. Here, the water is an endless, featureless abyss of midnight blue. There are no landmarks, no shores, and no shadows to hide behind. The scale of this place is beautiful, lonely, and deeply terrifying. Gliding through this colossal emptiness is the mother humpback whale. It has been 3 weeks since she left the rich feeding grounds of the north, and the toll of her sacrifice is beginning to show. Her once smooth skin looks slightly worn, and the thick layer of blubber that insulated her body is slowly shrinking. She has not swallowed a single morsel of food since her journey began. She is running entirely on the energy stored within her own cells, forcing her 35-ton body forward through heavy, opposing deep-sea currents. Every muscle in her body aches with fatigue, yet she cannot afford to slow down. The new life growing inside her womb is getting heavier, demanding more of her dwindling strength. To navigate this featureless wilderness, she would normally rely on her voice. Humpback whales are the great vocalists of the deep, sending haunting, majestic songs echoing across hundreds of miles of ocean to map out the contours of the sea and communicate with distant travelers. But suddenly, the acoustic environment around her changes. The distant chatter of the ocean falls dead silent. The mother whale stops swimming, her giant pectoral fins sweeping wide to stabilize her bulk. Her sensitive hearing picks up a series of sharp, chilling sounds cutting through the dark, high-frequency clicks and eerie, coordinated whistles. The wolves of the sea have arrived. A pod of transient orcas, or killer whales, is patrolling the exact same underwater highway. Unlike the resident orcas that eat only fish, these transient killers are specialized marine mammal hunters. They are apex predators of unparalleled intelligence, working in highly organized packs to track down and kill large whales. Their favorite target, above all else, is a young, vulnerable humpback calf. But right now, smelling the hormonal changes of a pregnant female, they are hunting for the mother herself. They know that an exhausted, pregnant whale is slower, heavier, and far more vulnerable than a normal adult. This realization triggers a terrifying psychological warfare of absolute silence. In an instant, the mother whale must shut down her voice. She cannot sing to navigate. She cannot call out for help. To make a single sound out here in the open blue is to illuminate herself like a beacon in the dark. In the open ocean, your own voice can be your executioner. She must become a ghost. She alters her entire swimming style, moving into absolute stealth mode. Instead of diving deep into the open water where she can be easily surrounded from below, she presses her massive bulk directly against the surface of the ocean. By staying in the top few feet of the water column, she reduces the angles from which the orcas can attack, and she allows her dark back to blend in with the churning white foam of the waves above. As she approaches a submerged volcanic seamount, she discovers a temporary sanctuary, a massive floating forest of giant kelp drifting in the current. The thick, amber fronds of the seaweed rise like skyscraper columns from the deep, creating a dense, tangled maze of shadow and camouflage. The mother whale carefully eases her 15-meter body into the heart of the kelp forest, moving so slowly that she barely disturbs the leaves. She comes to a complete halt, suspended in the amber gloom. Her lungs are burning. Humpback whales can hold their breath for up to 45 minutes, but the physical stress of her pregnancy and the intense anxiety of being hunted are consuming her oxygen at twice the normal rate. She needs to breathe, but exhaling at the surface creates a loud, explosive blast of mist that can be heard for miles and spotted from a distance by the sharp eyes of the orcas. She forces herself to wait, holding the stale air inside her giant chest. Through the dense curtain of kelp, she watches 3 sleek, black and white shapes glide past. The orcas are less than 50 meters away, their tall, sword-like dorsal fins cutting through the water like knives. They are using their own sonar to scan the area, sending out bursts of clicks that bounce off the rocks and the seaweed. The mother whale remains perfectly still, her eyes tracking the hunters through the gloom. She is a leviathan, a creature capable of crushing a boat with her tail. Yet she is reduced to a state of absolute trembling invisibility. She must endure the burning agony in her lungs, the paralyzing fear in her mind, and the agonizingly slow passage of time. The shared pulse that drove her south is now demanding that she hold her breath and wait for the danger to pass. The minutes stretch like hours. Finally, the distant clicks of the orcas begin to fade, their sleek shadows disappearing into the dark horizon of the open sea. They have missed her. She has survived the psychological gauntlet of the deep. Gently, with agonizing care, the mother whale glides out of the kelp forest and rises to the surface. She cracks the blowhole on her head just above the waterline, releasing a quiet, muffled exhale, drawing in the fresh ocean air before slipping back down into the blue highway. She is safe for now, but she is still thousands of miles away from her destination, and her energy reserves are dangerously low. But while this lonely giant relies on absolute isolation and silence to escape her predators, out in the crowded, vibrant waters of the tropical reef, another family is realizing that survival requires the exact opposite strategy: loud, aggressive, and perfectly coordinated communication. The quiet, suffocating tension of the open blue highway vanishes in a flash of blinding underwater chaos. We are slammed back into the shallow waters near the outer edge of a massive coral reef. The peaceful, crystal-clear turquoise sanctuary is gone, replaced by a churning, white-water vortex of pure panic. A massive school of mullet is scattering in every direction like fragments of shattered liquid silver, desperately trying to break through the hunting lines of the Bottlenose Dolphin Pod. For the past hour, the dolphins' tactical operation has been a spectacular success. Working with the precision of a seasoned combat unit, they have corralled thousands of fish into a dense, helpless bait ball against the shallow reef flat. The young scout dolphin is riding high on the adrenaline of the hunt, darting into the silver mass to snap up his share of the harvest, his joyful whistles echoing through the water. The family is celebrating a moment of abundance. But in a world governed by the shared pulse, blood and chaos are currencies that never go unnoticed. The intense, energetic vibrations of the hunting dolphins, combined with the frantic, rhythmic thrashing of thousands of panicked fish, have sent a powerful acoustic beacon traveling out into the dark trenches of the deep ocean drop-off. The banquet has attracted the most ruthless opportunists of the shallow seas. Out from the shadowy depths where the coral wall plummets into the black come three massive, heavy-bodied silhouettes. They do not glide with the elegant, playful curves of the dolphins. They move like heavy torpedoes, their pectoral fins locked wide and stiff. These are bull sharks, growing over 3 meters in length and weighing more than 200 kilograms. They are built of pure muscle, aggression, and an insatiable hunger. Worse still, bull sharks possess the highest testosterone levels of any creature in the ocean, making them completely unpredictable and fearless. They do not care about the dolphin's superior intelligence. They smell the blood of the fish, and they see something even more tempting: the younger, smaller dolphin calves swimming on the perimeter of the hunting formation. In an instant, the festive atmosphere of the reef shatters. The matriarch of the dolphin pod detects the low-frequency swim bladder signatures of the sharks using her powerful sonar. She emits a sharp, rapid sequence of alarm whistles, a high-pitched acoustic command that instantly halts the hunt. The fish are forgotten. The silver arrows pivot in midair, their playful energy hardening into a cold, defensive military mindset. The sharks accelerate, their black eyes fixed on a young dolphin calf that has drifted too far from its mother. The lead bull shark opens its crescent jaw, revealing rows of serrated, triangular teeth designed to shear through bone and blubber. But the dolphins are not helpless prey. They are a tribe, and an attack on one is an attack on the collective whole. The adult dolphins execute a flawless tactical shift, moving from a scattered hunting grid into a tight, impenetrable defensive phalanx. They utilize their superior speed and agility to outmaneuver the heavy sharks, turning the waters around the reef into a high-stakes arena of aquatic martial arts. The mothers and the young calves, including our young scout, are pushed into the absolute center of the formation, shielded by a dense, circling wall of mature adults. The hunters have become the protectors. The counterattack is devastatingly precise. While a shark is a solitary killer, a dolphin pod is a coordinated team. 2 large male dolphins utilize the momentum of a breaking wave to flank the second shark. They use their echolocation to target the shark's weakest anatomical points, its soft underbelly and its delicate gill slits. Moving at over 30 kilometers an hour, they take turns ramming the predator like silver battering rams, breaking its ribs and disrupting its internal organs. The bull sharks, accustomed to terrifying their prey into submission, find themselves completely outmatched by a superior collective intelligence. They cannot breach the circling wall of muscle. The defensive ring remains unbroken, shifting and flexing like a single armored organism. Realizing that the cost of this hunt is far too high, the remaining sharks turn their heavy bodies around, slipping back down into the dark, silent trenches of the reef drop-off. The danger passes. The water begins to clear. The red blood of the fish slowly diluting into the vast turquoise blue. The adult dolphins do not celebrate with reckless play. They circle back to the center of the formation, clicking softly, rubbing their flippers against the calves to comfort them, and verify that everyone is unharmed. The young scout dolphin trembles but stands close to his mother, having just learned the most valuable lesson of the pod. Your family is your armor. The shared pulse on the reef is a rhythm of fierce loyalty and collective defense. They have survived the ambush not through individual strength, but through an unbreakable social contract written into their very DNA. They are the masters of their sunlit kingdom because they know that together, no shadow can defeat them. But far to the north, where the water turns to slush and the horizon is a flat line of white, there are no social tribes to offer protection. In that frozen wilderness, our young seal pup is discovering that he must face his own gauntlet completely alone, with nothing but his own developing lungs between him and a cold, watery grave. The chaotic sunlit arena of the coral reef shatters into millions of icy fragments. We are dragged back into the subarctic dark, deep beneath the frozen surface of the northern sea. Above the waves, a massive polar blizzard is screaming across the horizon, but down here, the storm manifests as a suffocating underwater twilight. Giant sheets of pack ice, heavy as mountains, grind against one another at the surface, generating a terrifying, low-frequency groaning sound that vibrates through the water column. The crushing ice blocks out the sun, turning the upper world into a solid, shifting ceiling of pale green frost. In the middle of this freezing abyss is our young spotted seal pup. He has made his fateful plunge into the ocean, but the sudden, violent arrival of the Arctic storm has thrown his internal compass completely out of alignment. He is caught in a dangerous undercurrent, separated from the familiar breathing hole near the rocky shoreline where he was born. For a full-grown spotted seal, this frozen frontier is a familiar playground. But for a pup who has been in the water for less than 48 hours, it is a labyrinth of pure terror. His silver-gray coat, while water-resistant, is not yet backed by the thick, impenetrable fortress of adult blubber. The immense, biting cold of the water is beginning to seep into his muscles, sapping his limited energy reserves with every stroke of his hind flippers. But he faces a far more immediate threat than the cold. He is a mammal. He cannot extract oxygen from the water. As he swims frantically beneath the ice, the air inside his small lungs is rapidly expanding, converting into a toxic buildup of carbon dioxide. His body is burning through its oxygen supplies at an alarming rate as panic takes hold. He needs to breathe, but every time he rises to find the sky, his head thuds against a solid, unyielding sheet of ice. The surface is rapidly freezing over. The brutal polar winds above are sealing the gaps between the pack ice, closing the vital breathing holes, known as leads, with a fresh layer of sheet ice. To a young seal trapped below, the freezing ocean has become a beautiful, claustrophobic prison. If he cannot find a crack, a flaw, or a pocket of trapped air within the next few minutes, he will drown in the dark. Driven by pure survival instinct, the pup activates his biological superpower. He uses his highly sensitive whiskers, thick, wavy hairs packed with nerve endings, to scan the underside of the ice sheet. These whiskers can detect the slightest changes in water pressure and microcurrents caused by a gap in the ice above. He swims upward, his nose brushing against the cold ceiling, searching desperately for a breath of life. He follows a faint vibration, moving deeper into the maze of grinding ice blocks. The pressure in his chest is agonizing now. His lungs are screaming for air, and a dark veil is beginning to blur the edges of his vision. He senses a tiny pocket of light through a fracture in the shifting flows. He lunges upward, using his sharp claws to scratch frantically at a thin layer of new ice that has formed across the opening. It is a solitary, desperate battle against the elements. There is no mother to pull him out, and no tribe to shield his retreat. Out here, at the edge of the world, the shared pulse is a harsh, unfeeling law that tests the worth of every new life through fire and ice. The pup's claws scrape against the frost, his bubbles escaping into the dark as his strength begins to fail. And he is not the only traveler facing a moment of absolute crisis on this global chessboard of survival. Thousands of miles to the south, the crimson army of the red crabs has bypassed the highway, only to find themselves trapped by a shifting tide at the base of a sheer, jagged sea cliff, with the rising surf threatening to wash them away before they can release their cargo. Out in the open blue desert of the Pacific, the exhausted, pregnant Humpback Whale Mother looks back into the deep twilight, watching the unmistakable, sword-like dorsal fins of the transient orcas draw closer, their hunting formations narrowing the gap. And here, in the dark heart of the subarctic, the young seal pup's movements grow slower, his body drifting lower into the abyss as the ice sheets above grind shut, sealing his window to the sky. The ocean offers no mercy to those who lose their way. The crushing, claustrophobic darkness of the frozen northern abyss shatters, dissolved by a sudden, breathtaking influx of liquid gold. We are lifted out of the subarctic shadow and dropped into a world that feels entirely born of light. This is the shallow, sun-drenched coastal cradle of Maui, Hawaii. The contrast to the violent, murky green storms of Alaska is absolute. Here, the ocean is a pristine, luminous turquoise, so clear that columns of pure tropical sunlight pierce all the way to the white sand floor, casting dancing ripples of gold across the coral reefs. As they slip back beneath the surface, the mother whale rolls gently onto her side, using her massive flipper to hold her son close to her underbelly. The calf's instinct kicks in, and he begins to nurse, swallowing gallons of thick, rich, pink milk that is over 40% fat. This milk will act as a biological shield, helping him grow a thick layer of insulating blubber at an astonishing rate of nearly 50 kilograms a day. He must grow fast, because their time in this paradise is strictly limited. But their peace is suddenly challenged. Shadows appear on the edge of the shallow reef. A group of full-grown male humpback whales, weighing 30 tons each, begins to close in on the new mother. In this season, males are usually fiercely competitive and aggressive, fighting one another in violent heat groups for the opportunity to mate with females. A single collision with one of these charging giants could crush the newborn calf instantly. The mother whale tightens her grip on her son, her heart rate spiking as the giants draw near. But what occurs next is completely unexpected, a profound display of community that rewrites the laws of the wild. The lead male whale, a massive bull encrusted with heavy barnacles, cuts off the path of the oncoming group. He positions his enormous bulk directly between the mother and the other males, acting as a living shield. He drops low in the water and begins to blow a continuous, massive curtain of bubbles from his blowhole, creating a dense, white acoustic and visual wall that blinds and confuses the other suitors. The aggressive males halt their charge, deterred by the defensive barrier. The bull has chosen to abandon his aggression, transforming himself from a relentless pursuer into an elite guardian. He patrols the perimeter of the shallows, establishing a protective buffer zone that ensures the new mother has the isolation and peace she needs to bond with her child. The shared pulse in Hawaii is a melody of sanctuary, new life, and protective unity. Through a monumental act of physical sacrifice, the mother whale has delivered her child to the safest place on Earth. She has given him the ultimate beginning to his life, surrounded by the warmth of the tropics and the
Stressed and exhausted, he desperately clings to his mother's
silent protection of her own kind. For now, the desert has blossomed into a nursery. The young calf swims in joyful loops around his mother's massive head, testing the strength of his new flippers. Entirely unaware of the thousands of miles of icy storms and predators they will eventually have to face together. But while this giant family celebrates the miracle of a single birth in the calm paradise of the Pacific, far away in the tropical currents of the Indian Ocean, another mother is preparing to unleash life on a totally different scale. Arriving at the coast not to nurture a single infant, but to release a staggering tidal wave of millions into the surf. The water here is warm, calm, and wrapped in a serene silence. There are no howling polar winds, no grinding ice sheets, and no terrifying depth drop-offs. It is a natural sanctuary, a biological safe haven protected from the brutal currents of the open ocean. Gliding slowly into this peaceful amphitheater is the mother humpback whale. Her grueling 4,800-kilometer trek across the Pacific desert is finally over. The journey has taken a devastating toll on her body. Her ribs are subtly visible beneath her skin, and her once thick layer of blubber has been heavily depleted. She is exhausted, her muscles burning from weeks of unceasing movement without a single mouthful of food. She is running on empty, powered only by the last reserves of her own melting flesh. Yet, as she enters these shallow waters, a profound wave of calm settles over her giant frame. The survival gauntlet of the open sea has been conquered. She has arrived at her destination just in time. Deep within her womb, the unseen countdown that began a year ago in the cold north reaches 0. The shared pulse of the planet, which drove her across an ocean, now commands her to stop. She floats weightlessly in the turquoise warmth, her massive pectoral fins fanned out like white wings. And there, in the quiet heart of the tropical paradise, a miracle unfolds. The mother whale gives birth. Out into the clear, warm water slips a newborn humpback calf. He is a male, already a stunning 4.5 meters long and weighing a colossal 2 tons. His skin is a smooth, unblemished slate gray, completely devoid of the barnacles and scars that mark his mother. But as he enters the water, he faces an immediate life-or-death crisis. He is born underwater, but he cannot breathe beneath the surface. His lungs are filled with fluid, and he does not yet know how to swim. He begins to sink helplessly toward the sandy sea floor. What happens next is an exhibition of the most immense, breathtaking gentleness found in the natural world. The mother whale, a 35-ton leviathan capable of shattering a boat with a single swipe of her tail, maneuvers her colossal body with impossible care. She dives beneath her sinking child, using the soft, sensitive tip of her massive rostrum, her nose, to gently cradle his fragile body. With slow, rhythmic movements, she nudges her 2-ton newborn upward, lifting him through the sunlit turquoise water, guiding him toward the surface. They break the surface together, shattering the smooth glass of the tropical water. The calf's blowhole opens for the very first time, clearing the fluid from his passages and drawing in a massive, desperate gulp of warm, oxygen-rich air. His chest expands as his internal systems ignite. Two lungs open to the tropical sun. A new traveler has joined the rhythm. The warm, sunlit, turquoise cradle of the whale sanctuary dissolves, plunging us into the velvet darkness of a tropical night. We are back on Christmas Island, standing on the edge of a jagged limestone beach where the dark forest finally meets the open, churning expanse of the Indian Ocean. The air is thick with the scent of sea salt, damp earth, and the low, rhythmic roar of the incoming surf. The scale of this release is staggering. In a matter of minutes, the waters around the island are transformed into a thick, swirling soup of new life. Billions of tiny, microscopic travelers are launched into the grand matrix of the sea, joining the great oceanic current system. They will spend the next 4 weeks drifting in the open ocean, growing, shedding their skins, and facing an army of hungry predators ranging from tiny fish to the giant whale sharks that migrate to the island just for this annual feast. Only a tiny fraction of these larvae will survive to become baby crabs. But the mother crab does not calculate the odds. She has fulfilled her contract with the shared pulse. Her brood pouch is now empty, washed clean by the salt water. Without looking back at the ocean, she turns her crimson body around and begins the long, grueling climb back up the cliffs toward the safety of her forest home. She has given her children the only thing she could, a starting line. The miracle wave has broken, and a new generation of life has been successfully surrendered to the deep, carrying the legacy of the island into the great blue wilderness. The miracle wave has broken, and a new generation of life has been successfully surrendered to the deep, carrying the legacy of the island into the great blue wilderness. But while these tiny, newly born larvae begin their drifting journey through the open ocean, relying on nothing but luck to survive, a rare and unexpected meeting is about to take place in the coastal waters to the north. A moment where two entirely different travelers will cross paths, proving that the shared pulse can bridge the gap between different species through an extraordinary act of mercy. High above the coastline, hanging in a sky clear as black crystal, is a waning crescent moon. Its soft, silver light casts a ghostly glow across the shoreline, revealing a sight that looks completely alien. The white sand and the dark volcanic rocks have completely vanished. The entire beach is alive, buried beneath a dense, undulating carpet of brilliant crimson. The 70 million marchers have finally finished their grueling cross-island marathon. They have reached the edge of the sea. The timing of this arrival is not an accident. This is the absolute peak of the migration, calculated with a degree of mathematical precision that connects these tiny land dwellers directly to the cosmos. The crabs have arrived at the shore at the exact hour of the perfect high tide, precisely when the gravitational pull of the moon creates a brief window of calm, predictable water before the morning sun breaks. Their internal biological clocks are perfectly synchronized with the celestial mechanics of the solar system. While the males have already begun their journey back toward the forest, the stage now belongs entirely to the future mothers. Every female crab on this beach is carrying a precious, heavy cargo. Beneath her abdomen sits a massive, swollen brood pouch containing over 100,000 microscopic, dark purple eggs. She has protected this cargo with her life, shielding it from the crushing tires of the highway and the crushing claws of the robber crabs. Now, the final, most dangerous act of her mission is at hand. The red crab evolved from the sea, but she is now completely adapted to life on land. She cannot swim. Her lungs are built to breathe air, and her dense, heavy shell makes her sink like a stone. If she is swept out into the deep, turbulent water of the open ocean, she will drown. Yet, driven by an unyielding maternal instinct, she takes a step forward, leaving the safety of the dry sand and moving directly into the path of the white, crashing surf. Thousands of female crabs line up along the wet, slippery rocks, facing the black horizon of the sea. As a wave rolls in, turning the dark water into a shelf of glowing white foam, the crabs begin a remarkable, synchronized ritual. They step directly into the shallow, swirling water. They do not run away from the waves. Instead, they dance with them. Standing on the tips of their legs, they raise their bodies high into the air. As the salt water washes over their shells, they open their brood pouches and begin to shake their bodies with an intense, frantic energy. They vibrate, shimmying in the surf, using the motion of the water to wash their microscopic eggs out into the tide. It is a moment of supreme vulnerability. A single rogue wave could rip them from the rocks and pull them into the abyss. Yet they hold on with absolute, iron-like determination. And as those millions of dark eggs strike the salt water, a spectacular transformation takes place. This is the magic of instant life. The moment the eggs touch the ocean, the sudden change in salinity and temperature causes them to fracture. They pop open in a fraction of a second, releasing a tidal wave of free-swimming, microscopic larvae known as zoea. They look like tiny, translucent shrimp, complete with large, dark eyes and a spine that allows them to swim against the current. An ancient promise kept between the moon, the tide, and the shore. The velvet darkness of the tropical crab beach dissolves, swept away by a sudden shift into the vast, open coastal waters of the mid-Pacific. This is a dramatic boundary zone of the ocean, a fluid crossroads where the warm, salt-rich currents traveling up from the equator collide directly with the cold, nutrient-heavy drift flowing down from the frozen north. The water here is a shifting, restless canvas of deep sapphire and emerald green, creating an environment that is incredibly rich in life, but also entirely unpredictable. They push through the current for over an hour until the sandy bottom rises to greet them. Ahead lies a shallow, sunlit, rocky bay filled with a dense, protective forest of giant amber kelp. This is the ultimate safe haven for a young seal. The thick seaweed creates a natural wall that large sharks cannot easily penetrate, and the shallow rocks offer a stable place to rest and dry out. The dolphins halt at the edge of the kelp forest, their mission accomplished. They click softly, a gentle acoustic farewell that ripples through the water. The young seal pup, sensing the safety of the amber leaves, uses the last ounce of his remaining strength to swim into the heart of the kelp, crawling onto a flat, sun-warmed rock just above the waterline. He is safe. His heart rate begins to slow as the warmth of the sun hits his damp fur. In the grand design of the sea, even rivals can share a moment of grace. The alliance of mercy has saved a life, demonstrating that the shared pulse is not just a law of competition, but a network of profound, instinctive compassion that keeps the blue planet alive. The seal pup closes his eyes, entering a deep, restorative sleep, his long trial finally at an end. But while this young survivor finds peace in the shelter of the kelp, out in the open, featureless desert of the Pacific, a catastrophic new shadow is drifting into the path of the whale community, an artificial trap born of the human world that threatens to turn the ocean's network of communication into a tragic echo of despair. Drifting precariously through this swirling oceanic crossroads is our young spotted seal pup. The suffocating terror of his underwater prison is behind him. Against all odds, he managed to claw his way through a fracturing lead in the ice sheet during the Arctic blizzard. But his escape has come at a staggering cost. He has been swept hundreds of miles away from the familiar rocks of his birth shore, caught in a powerful southward-bound current. His body is completely spent. His small flippers, which worked so frantically to escape the grinding ice floes, are now trembling with exhaustion. His silver-gray coat is soaked through, and without a thick layer of insulating blubber, the core temperature of his body is beginning to plummet. He can barely keep his nose above the rising swells, his small chest heaving as he gasps for air. He is drifting aimlessly, entering a highly dangerous stretch of open water known to be a hunting corridor for large oceanic predators. The scent of a young, exhausted mammal traveling through the water column is an irresistible signal. Down in the deeper, darker layers of the current, a large shape begins to ascend. It is a lone oceanic white-tip shark, a persistent, slow-moving scavenger known for tracking distressed prey over immense distances. It circles below the pup, its cold, unblinking eyes fixed on the helpless shape floating at the surface. The seal pup is too weak to dive, too weak to defend himself, and entirely alone. But the shared pulse of the ocean operates on a network of connections that science is still struggling to fully comprehend. Traveling through the exact same current system, moving at a brisk, energetic pace, is the family of bottlenose dolphins. They are traveling toward a new seasonal feeding ground, their silver bodies cutting through the waves with synchronized grace. Suddenly, the matriarch of the pod alters her course. Her powerful sonar has picked up an unusual acoustic signature floating in the current ahead. The rapid, distressed heartbeat and the erratic, splashy swimming movements of a mammal in deep trouble. The dolphins accelerate, transforming from a casual traveling group into a high-speed rescue team. Within moments, they break through the thermocline and arrive at the scene. Under normal circumstances, a spotted seal and a bottlenose dolphin are rivals, competing for the exact same schools of fish, completely indifferent to one another's existence. But out here in the vast emptiness of the open sea, the rules of the wild take an extraordinary turn. The dolphins do not attack the pup, nor do they ignore him. Instead, the adult dolphins split their formation. Two large males dive deep, tracking the ascending shadow of the white-tip shark. They begin to emit a barrage of intense, high-frequency echolocation clicks, aiming the sonic blasts directly at the shark's sensitive lateral line. The intense acoustic pressure disorients the predator, forcing it to stall its ascent. Meanwhile, the rest of the pod closes the gap around the trembling seal pup. They form a tight, moving circle of silver muscle directly around his fragile body. The young scout dolphin swims right alongside the pup, matching his slow, exhausted pace, his dark eye fixed on the shivering creature. The physical presence of the dolphins acts as a powerful barrier, masking the pup's scent and blocking the shark's line of sight. What follows is a beautiful display of cross-species connection, a profound, unwritten code of mammalian empathy, written deep within the intelligence of the sea. The dolphins recognize the pup as a fellow creature of air and blood, a traveler sharing the same vulnerabilities in a cold, unforgiving world. They do not leave his side. Moving as a protective convoy, they slowly steer their formation toward the coast, guiding the drifting pup away from the deep, dangerous blue water. The peaceful, sunlit silence of the coastal kelp sanctuary dissolves, replaced by a murky, unsettling shift in the open ocean water. We are carried away from the shores and dropped into a desolate stretch of the open Pacific, where the vibrant, crystal clarity of the sea begins to choke. The water here is a dull, green-blue, thick with floating particles of microplastics and industrial debris. Drifting aimlessly through this twilight zone is a colossal, shapeless nightmare, a phantom weapon born of the human world. The silence of the vast, lonely Pacific closes back in around the scene, offering no immediate answer. The young whale's movements grow devastatingly slow. The agonizing pressure in his chest is reaching a breaking point. His lungs are starved of oxygen, and his heart rate is dropping to a dangerously sluggish pace. His giant, dark eye looks up at the shimmering ceiling of the surface one last time, his body losing its fight against the heavy, downward pull of the phantom trap. The dark, green-blue twilight begins to narrow around him as his strength completely fails. Across the entire world, the grand journeys of the wild have reached a moment of absolute, terrifying suspension. The red crabs are clustered at the base of the cliffs, facing the roar of a rising tide. The dolphin pod is on high alert after the shark ambush. The seal pup is sleeping in a fragile sanctuary. And here, the young giant of the deep is slipping into the final, cold embrace of the abyss. The shared pulse of the ocean, once a melody of triumphant movement and life, has warped into a tragic, fracturing echo of survival under siege. The shadows are lengthening, the traps are closed, and the darkness is waiting to claim the fallen. It is a ghost net, spanning hundreds of meters in length. This massive, tangled labyrinth of heavy commercial nylon ropes, monofilament fishing lines, and plastic floats was abandoned by a long-line fishing vessel months ago. Left to drift with the deep oceanic currents, it has become a perpetual, invisible machine of death. It does not decay. It does not stop hunting. It simply floats, sweeping through the open water columns like a dark cloud, trapping every living thing unfortunate enough to cross its path. Trapped in the suffocating heart of this nylon maze is a young, juvenile humpback whale. He belongs to the very same community as our mother whale, a 3-year-old calf who had only recently learned to navigate the blue highways independent of his mother. He is a beautiful, sleek creature, but right now, his body is locked in an agonizing prison. The heavy, abrasive green ropes have wrapped ruthlessly around his upper jaw, pinning his mouth shut, and have wound tightly around his powerful tail flukes, cutting deep into his skin. Every time he struggles, every time he thrashes his tail to break free, the nylon knots tighten, slicing through his blubber and drawing lines of dark blood that cloud the water around him. The weight of the sodden net is immense, acting as a massive anchor that pulls his body down into the cold depths. He is a mammal, born to ride the waves and breathe the open sky, but he has been anchored in the dark. He is slowly drowning. The young whale is utterly exhausted. His muscles are shaking from hours of unceasing, futile combat against an enemy that cannot be broken by strength. He tries to swim upward, his pectoral fins beating frantically against the water column. But the heavy web of ropes drags him back down. He cannot reach the surface to clear his blowhole. He can see the faint, mocking glow of the sun dancing on the surface just 20 meters above his head. But it might as well be on the other side of the universe. In his terror and pain, the young whale turns to the ultimate superpower of his species, his voice. He opens his throat and unleashes a sequence of sounds that shatters the quiet of the deep sea. It is not the beautiful, melodic song of a breeding male, nor is it the curious chatter of a calf. It is a raw, piercing, and profoundly mournful distress signal. It is a sonic explosion of panic and agony, a series of low-frequency groans and high-pitched metallic shrieks that vibrate through the water with incredible power. Because of the unique acoustics of the deep ocean, where sound travels 4 times faster than it does through the air, his desperate cries do not vanish. They form a massive, expanding wave of energy, traveling out into the empty blue desert, rippling through the currents, crossing deep trenches, and bouncing off underwater mountains. He is throwing a message into the bottle of the sea, crying out to the shared pulse, begging for anyone of his kind to hear him before his breath runs out. A cry for help that travels 100 miles. But is anyone listening? The cold, suffocating blackness of the abyss slowly recedes, pierced once again by columns of morning light that stream down through the water column like cathedral glass. In the center of this luminous gallery, the young juvenile whale hangs motionless in the water, trapped in the tight embrace of the green nylon ghost net. His body is lower now, dragged deeper into the twilight zone by the immense weight of the sodden ropes. The final traces of bubbles leave his blowhole, and his dark eye begins to glaze over as his consciousness slips away. But the ocean is not empty, and his desperate cries for help did not break against the current in vain. Deep within the acoustic pathways of the open sea, the young whale's distress signal had rippled outward, traveling through miles of open desert, and it had been received. Far to the south, our mother whale and her newborn calf had heard the mournful song. At the exact same time, 2 other mature humpback whales, traveling along the deep-sea highway, caught the low-frequency vibrations of panic. The shared pulse did not demand competition. It commanded a rescue. Suddenly, the silent water around the trapped juvenile begins to tremble. Out of the vast, featureless blue comes a massive, rushing wall of energy. 3 full-grown humpback whales cut through the twilight at maximum speed, their enormous pectoral fins swept back as they accelerate toward the phantom trap. Leading the charge is a colossal adult bull, his skin heavily scarred and his massive fins encrusted with a thick, white armor of rugged barnacles. What follows is an extraordinary demonstration of problem-solving and collective intelligence that challenges everything we think we know about the wild. The adult whales do not simply swim around the victim in frantic confusion. They assess the situation with remarkable tactical precision. The 2 flanking adults take up positions directly beneath the drowning juvenile, Synchronizing their movements, they use their massive heads to gently push his heavy, sinking body upward, fighting the downward anchor of the net to keep him from dropping into the crushing depths. Meanwhile, the giant bull whale confronts the ghost net itself. He approaches the tangled web of nylon with immense, deliberate care, moving his 30-ton frame with the precision of a surgeon. He does not use brute force, which would only tighten the knots around the juvenile's bleeding jaw. Instead, he utilizes his most powerful weapon, his 15-meter pectoral fins. The edges of these giant fins are lined with sharp, jagged, rock-hard barnacles. The bull begins to rub his fins methodically against the main structural lines of the commercial net. He saws at the ropes, creating an intense friction underwater. At the same time, he begins to quaff his powerful tail fluke, generating massive vortices of turbulent water that stretch and pull at the plastic webbing, weakening the tension of the trap. It is a display of pure, deliberate altruism, a triumph of community among giants. The bull continues his relentless work, his barnacles slicing through the heavy nylon strands one by one. The green ropes begin to snap, the tightly bound knots fraying and unraveling under the pressure of the turbulence. The suffocating grip around the juvenile's jaw loosens, and the anchor attached to his tail begins to disintegrate. With one final, monumental heave, the bull whale strikes the core of the net with his fluke, shattering the remaining structural lines. The phantom trap breaks apart, drifting away into the current as a harmless pile of synthetic rags. The young whale is free. Sensing the sudden disappearance of the weight, the juvenile survival instinct ignites. Guided by the two adult whales flanking his sides, he beats his tail fluke for the first time in hours, driving his body straight up toward the light. No giant travels entirely alone. He floats at the surface, his blowhole wide open as he clears his lungs, his body basking in the warm, life-giving heat of the sun. The three adult rescuers surface directly alongside him, creating a protective flotilla of dark skin and white mist around the survivor. They emit a series of low, rumbling clicks, a comforting acoustic embrace that re-anchors the young whale to the safety of his tribe. The shadow of death has been dispelled by the unbreakable bonds of community. The shared pulse has proven that in the vast, dangerous desert of the sea, the ultimate superpower of the giants is not their size, but their willingness to listen to one another's pain and carry each other through the dark. The young survivor dives back down, his movements lighter, his spirit restored, swimming safely in the shadow of the elders who saved his life. But as this great victory of mercy settles over the open Pacific, the seasonal clock continues to tick. The tides are shifting once again, and on the shorelines of the Indian Ocean and the frozen borders of the North, our other travelers are arriving at the final lines of their own epic scripts, preparing to complete the grand loop of their destinies. The sunlit open ocean where the giants celebrate their survival fades away, replaced by the brilliant golden clarity of a pristine tropical morning. We are returned to the shores of Christmas Island. 4 weeks have passed since that spectacular moonlit night when the female crabs danced with the high tide, surrendering their precious cargo to the unfeeling nursery of the open sea. For the past month, the ocean has been working its silent alchemy. The billions of microscopic, free-swimming larvae that were swept out into the massive Indian Ocean currents have endured a brutal trial of their own. They have drifted through the watery matrix, shedding their skins, growing, changing form, and dodging an endless gauntlet of hungry fish and migrating whale sharks. The odds against them were astronomical. Yet, the matrix of the sea has done its job. Suddenly, the gentle wave rolls onto the white sandy beach, leaving behind a line of glistening foam. And as the water recedes, the sand begins to move. Out of the surf step billions of tiny, fully formed baby red crabs. They are microscopic copies of their parents, no larger than a fingernail, their miniature shells a soft, translucent pinkish red. They have conquered the ocean, developed their land-breathing lungs, and are now stepping onto solid ground for the very first time in their lives. What follows is a beautiful, inverted mirror of the adult migration. The white sand beaches are completely painted over, transformed into a shifting, crawling carpet of pure crimson. Billions of tiny legs work in perfect unison, driven by an unyielding, instinctual command to move away from the dangerous waves and head toward the shelter of the trees. They move like a single, massive wave of liquid fire, spilling over volcanic rocks, scaling steep limestone cliffs, and flowing over the forest floor. The little red crabs do not know where they are going, yet they move with absolute confidence. They are heading home, returning to the ancient jungle interior where their ancestors have lived for millions of years. They will spend the next few years hiding in the damp leaf litter and deep, rocky crevices, growing slowly until they too are ready to hear the great summons of the monsoon rains. The trial of their infancy is complete. The fragile have become survivors, ready to bring life back to this tropical paradise. The forest reclaims its children. But the shared pulse does not just govern the micro-worlds of the tropics. It is simultaneously striking the frozen frontiers of the far north, where another test of survival has reached its silent, triumphant conclusion. Beneath the frozen surface of the subarctic sea, the warm sun is replaced by a crystal-clear Arctic kelp forest. Here, the water is a brilliant, icy emerald green. Massive amber columns of giant kelp rise from the seafloor like ancient trees, swaying gently in the slow subarctic currents. Gliding effortlessly through this majestic underwater forest is our young spotted seal pup. 4 weeks of independent life have completely transformed him. The soft, fluffy, silver-gray baby coat that once made him so heavy and vulnerable on the ice is entirely gone, shed into the dark sea. In its place is a short, dense, ultra-streamlined coat of slate-gray fur, perfectly designed to repel the freezing water and reduce drag. He has built a thick, protective fortress of insulating blubber beneath his skin, fueled by the rich fish he has learned to catch. On land, he was a clumsy infant, but down here, beneath the frozen ice shelf, he is a sleek, confident predator. He moves with a breathtaking agility that makes the freezing water look like a playground, twisting his body through the tangled kelp fronds with the grace of an acrobat. His large, dark eyes are perfectly adapted to the dim light, and his sensitive whiskers twitch as they scan the water column, tracking the micro-vibrations of his prey. He spots a silver Arctic cod darting beneath a ledge of ice. With a single, powerful flex of his muscular hind flippers, the pup accelerates like an arrow, closing the gap in a fraction of a second. The fish turns sharply, but the pup mirrors the movement flawlessly, his sleek body curving in mid-water. He opens his jaws and snaps up the fish effortlessly, swallowing it whole before rolling belly up in a display of pure, unadulterated joy. The ice accepts its master. Both the tiny crab and the rugged seal pup have crossed the gauntlet of their beginnings. They have transitioned from helpless dependence into true masters of their respective domains, proving that the shared pulse of the planet rewards those who possess the raw, instinctual endurance to survive the trial of the changing seasons. The circle of life has turned, and the future of their species is secure. But as these young survivors plant their flags in their native wilderness, out in the crowded tropical coastal waters, our social strategists are realizing that the next generation faces a new, artificial obstacle, one that cannot be defeated by instinct or speed alone. The vibrant emerald majesty of the frozen northern wilderness dissolves, swept away by a sudden plunge back into the sun-drenched, crystal-clear coastal waters of the tropics. We return to the silver kingdom of the Bottlenose Dolphin Pod. The threat of the shark ambush has long passed, and the family is once again moving through the turquoise shallows with their signature high-speed grace. Gliding through the liquid light is a sight of profound tenderness and education. A mother dolphin swims in absolute synchronization with her young calf, their silver flanks almost touching as they cut through the gentle swell. The calf is no longer just a passive observer protected at the center of the ring. He has grown, his muscles strengthening, and he has officially been welcomed into the pod's active hunting rotation. Today is a milestone. The mother is teaching her son the advanced family business, how to read the invisible topography of the sea using sound. The mother emits a series of rapid, rhythmic clicks, pointing her rostrum toward a patch of sandy seafloor where a flatfish lies buried, completely invisible to the naked eye. She is demonstrating how to focus her sonic beams, waiting for the echo to bounce back and reveal the hidden prey. The calf mimics her perfectly, tilting his head, tilting his body, sending out his own high-pitched chirps. He is learning to translate sound into sight, anchoring his mind to the ancient linguistic network that has kept his family alive for generations. For these creatures, the shared pulse is a beautiful, continuous conversation. But as the pod follows the fish shoal outward, moving toward the edge of a deep coastal channel, the acoustic texture of their paradise begins to warp. The pristine, quiet symphony of clicks, whistles, and snapping shrimp is suddenly pierced by a low, rhythmic vibration. It starts as a distant hum, a metallic thumping that causes the dolphins to tilt their heads in discomfort. The young calf swims closer to his mother's side, his clicks faltering as a strange, unnatural pressure builds in the water column. They have swam into the invisible border of a modern human shipping lane. Looming on the horizon above is a colossal cargo ship, a mountain of rusted steel stretching 300 meters in length, carrying thousands of industrial containers across the globe. To a human standing on the deck, the ship seems to pass through the ocean with a quiet, majestic, slow-motion glide. But beneath the surface, the reality is a catastrophic engine of pure, industrial violence. The ship's massive bronze propeller, spinning with immense force, creates a localized storm of acoustic chaos. It unleashes a deafening, low-frequency roar that floods the water column for tens of miles in every direction. This is acoustic pollution, an invisible wall of industrial noise that directly assaults the delicate sensory world of the cetaceans. For a creature that perceives the world through sound, this roar is the equivalent of a blinding, suffocating fog. The effect on the dolphin pod is immediate and devastating. The massive wall of static completely drowns out their echolocation, The clicks sent out by the mother and her calf do not bounce back with clean, readable data. They are swallowed, distorted, and scattered by the heavy mechanical vibrations of the propeller. The invisible map they use to navigate, hunt, and stay connected is wiped clean. The dolphins are suddenly thrust into a state of profound sensory blindness, their ancient intelligence rendered useless by a world they do not understand. The family formation shatters into confusion. The adult dolphins lose track of the fish shoal, but more importantly, they lose track of each other. The young calf emits a sharp, frantic signature whistle, his acoustic name crying out for his mother. But his voice is completely buried beneath the industrial grinding above. He cannot hear her reassuring response. He swims in erratic, panicked circles through the murky, acoustic fog, his dark eyes wide with terror as the shadow of the giant hull passes directly overhead. We have filled their quiet sanctuary with our noise. And the gauntlet of the modern world does not end with sound. As the current swirls around the wake of the giant ship, it carries a secondary, silent hazard. A dense cluster of floating plastic bags, discarded synthetic ropes, and colorful microplastic fragments drifting through the water column like phantom jellyfish. The young calf, still disoriented by the noise, swims directly through this plastic minefield. A thin strip of nylon strapping brushing past his pectoral fin, threatening to snag his flesh if he makes a wrong turn. The ancient lines of communication and safety are fracturing under the weight of human industry. The cargo ship slowly moves down the channel, its deafening roar gradually fading into a distant, dull hum as it heads toward the open horizon. Slowly, painfully, the acoustic clarity of the bay begins to restore itself. The mother dolphin, using the first clear window of silence, unleashes a series of high-powered, commanding whistles, scanning the area frantically with her sonar. She locates her trembling son hiding within the shadow of a shallow reef ledge. She darts to his side, pressing her silver body against his, rubbing her flippers against his face to soothe his panic. The pod reassembles around them, their clicks soft, cautious, and tense. They have survived the mechanical intrusion, but the experience has left a permanent scar on their sunlit kingdom. The shared pulse that has guided them for millennia is no longer the only voice in the deep. It must now compete with the relentless, deafening echo of tomorrow. The mother dolphin guides her calf back toward the safety of the shallow inner reefs, her whistles carrying a new note of vigilance. The lesson of the day has changed. To survive in the modern ocean, they must learn to navigate not just the traps of nature, but the careless shadows of man. But as this vulnerable family retreats to the shallows, far out in the vast, open expanses of the North Pacific, our grandest traveler is arriving at the final coordinates of her epic journey, preparing to bring her newborn son to the ultimate destination where the grand loop of the shared pulse began. The turbulent, industry-choked waters of the tropical shipping lane slowly wash away, cleansed by a massive, freezing surge of deep oceanic current. We are carried thousands of miles back north, returning to the majestic, primordial wilderness where our epic journey first began. This is the Gulf of Alaska. The brutal polar winter has finally broken, and the jagged slate cliffs are now bathed in the soft, golden amber light of a late subarctic spring. The giant sheets of pack ice have thawed, opening up the emerald bays once again. Gliding side by side through this rich, murky green expanse come two colossal silhouettes. It is our mother humpback whale, and directly at her flank, her now-grown calf. They have done it. They have completed the monumental 9,600-kilometer round-trip loop across the open Pacific Desert and back. The young calf is no longer a fragile, helpless infant. He is now a strong, confident 6-meter juvenile, his body insulated by a thick, heavy coat of rich blubber built from his mother's milk. He cuts through the freezing northern swells with an effortless, triumphant grace. But look at the mother. The true cost of this architectural masterpiece of maternal love is written entirely across her body. She has spent the last 5 months in a state of absolute, voluntary starvation. She has melted away more than a quarter of her total body weight, sacrificing her own flesh, her own energy, and her own health to fuel the life of her son. She is walking on the absolute edge of physical exhaustion, her skin worn, her movements slow and heavy. She has given everything she is to this journey. But as she enters the familiar, nutrient-rich emerald bays, the shared pulse of the planet rewards her grand sacrifice. The cold water is thick with massive, swirling clouds of krill and silver herring. The banquet hall is open, and she is not alone. The distant, haunting songs of her community echo through the water column, the very same community that came together to save a drowning juvenile from a ghost net in the dark. They are reunited at the finish line. The whales coordinate their movements, diving deep beneath a massive school of herring. Working as an elite team, one whale swims in a perfect circle, blowing a continuous wall of bubbles that rises to the surface like an invisible net, trapping the fish in a dense, panicked ball at the center. With a synchronized explosion of power, the mother and her calf rise through the center of the bubble ring, their cavernous mouths open wide to swallow the feast. The starvation is over. The mother is finally replenishing her life force, her son swimming right alongside her, mastering the ancient hunting arts of his ancestors. As they surface to breathe, their rainbow plumes of mist hanging in the golden air, the true, grand scale of our global narrative clicks into perfect alignment. The journey of this 35-ton Leviathan is not an isolated event. It is a single, beautiful thread woven into a massive tapestry of life that spans the entire blue planet. Every creature we have encountered across these 4 chapters is dancing to the exact same cosmic drumbeat. Think of the tiny red crab on Christmas Island, no bigger than a hand, enduring a brutal marathon across sun-baked asphalt and dodging giants just to drop her eggs into a moonlit tide. Think of the spotted seal pup, shedding his baby coat and conquering his terror of the dark abyss to become the master of the freezing ice. Think of the Bottlenose Dolphin Pod, utilizing a brilliant collective intelligence to shield their young from predators and guide a lost rival back to a safe sanctuary. Whether they are 30-ton giants of devotion, tribes of social intellect, amphibious warriors of the ice, or an army of 70 million tiny marchers, they are all driven by the exact same unyielding, sacred law. They do not calculate the odds. They do not ask for a guarantee of success, and they do not run from the gauntlet. They are all willing to endure the absolute unimaginable, to push their bodies to the brink of death for a simple, beautiful promise, so that the next generation can inherit the earth. They are the true guardians of the Matrix, the living heartbeat of the sea. But today, the ancient lines of their destinies are hitting a barrier they cannot outswim or outmaneuver. The modern world of humans is closing in on their sanctuary. The ghost nets we leave behind drift as permanent engines of death. The industrial roar of our cargo ships blinds the intelligence of the pod. The warming of our atmosphere fractures the ice shelves of the pup and threatens to alter the very climate that triggers the monsoon rains. The wild world has done its part. It has fought for survival with every ounce of its spirit since the era of the dinosaurs. The future of these grand oceanic Odysseys no longer depends on their strength, their intelligence, or their numbers. It depends entirely on us. It depends on our choices, our willingness to quiet our industrial noise, to clean our oceans, and to respect the invisible boundaries of their kingdoms. We are not separate from this network. We are its ultimate curators. If we allow their songs to fall silent, we rip the very soul out of our living planet. The young humpback whale calf accelerates, splitting off from his mother's side. He launches his 6-meter body completely out of the water, a spectacular breach that hangs suspended against the brilliant, burning colors of a majestic Alaskan sunset. He is a declaration of victory, a promise of tomorrow, a beautiful testament to a mother's sacrifice. Their journey is our journey, for as long as their pulse beats, our blue planet stays alive.